Board of Trustees meeting and budget hearing to order. We have enough for a quorum, so we will proceed. Some of the members asked their campaign or doing other things, and we have enough people, so we'll proceed. Mrs. Clark, would you mind leading us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. If you notice, it's down the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We do not have any presentations or recognition this time. We don't have a lot of audience, but they're welcome to comment if they would like to.
They're all doing a great job.
Yeah. Good. No correspondence either. Move on to item 6, resignations and hiring. Does not appear to have any resignations, which is good. Hirings, item B.
Consider offering a contract to Brianna Williams for the 2022-2023 school year pending certification. Her assignment would be the SMHS Family and Consumer Science teacher.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we consider offering a contract to Brianna Williams for the 2022-2023 school year pending certification. Current assignment, SMHS Family and Consumer Science.
Second.
Moved and seconded to offer the contract to Brianna Williams for the 2022-2023 school year pending certification, current assignment being SMHS Family and Consumer Science. Did you get any slack from Mr. Hetherington for poaching a person from the elementary school?
Not yet.
She was real
only
good.
seen it once.
She was real good.
She
helped a lot in my son's class, so it's great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item C.
Consider offering a contract to Emily Knickerbocker for the 2022-2023 school year pending certification. Her current assignment will be HEM Art.
Chairman, I move that we offer the contract to Emily Knickerbocker for the 2022-2023 school year pending certification for HEM Art.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to offer the contract to Emily Knickerbocker for the 2022-2023 school year pending certification. Current assignment being HEM Art. So does that get us staffed?
It with the exception of with Hannah Elementary's interventionist position, those are all of our certified positions.
Item D.
Consider offering the 2022-2023 activity coordinator listing for the activity extra contracts, not offered at the June meeting. So that's just the activity duty contracts for HEM. We put on C.
So Travis Ward and Stephen Priest are going to split at HEM.
Yes. At the time they made the decision, Mr. Priest, we did not have any applications for the position.
So going forward, is that something you envision maybe Travis Ward doing himself, or keep it split, or go see how it goes for the year?
I'd like to see how it goes for the year and see where we go. There's some trainings that WHSA offers that Travis has signed up for in August, and we'd just like to see how this year goes.
Chairman, I move that we offer the 2022-2023 activity coordinator listing for extra activity, extra duty contracts not offered at the June meeting. We need to give the names or?
Not necessarily, it is a public document,
Okay.
and so we can, but normally we don't.
We don't,
When
okay.
they are approved as a whole in June and then August and September, we normally just approve the list. So it's up to you all if you want to add the.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to offer the 2022-2023 activity coordinator listing for those extra duty contracts. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7A, Superintendent Report. Mr. Jennings.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, have quite a few facility projects. Locker room projects are going on in all of our secondary campuses. The encampment project is farthest along right now, and is ready for their lockers. And they will not be delivered until the first week of September. Just like every other industry, they're just, it's some manufacturing and shipping concerns. So the encampment locker room will not be ready for the beginning of the school year as far as lockers go. Restrooms, rooms will be ready to go. All of the tile work, all the fixtures in place. Lockers will not be in place. The delivery date is the first week of September. At Saratoga Middle High School, the delivery date for their lockers, they're equally as far along as in Cam, but the delivery date is August 3rd. So as long as that holds, Saratoga Middle High School will have their facility completed by our first practices. That's just that's really what we're hoping for. And then Hannah, which is not looking very far along at this point, will actually be done and ready to go. 100%. They didn't get new lockers. Hannah was the only school that used their existing lockers. They were in good shape, and the contractor assures me they'll be ready to go by the first practices beginning August 15th. The Elk Mountain Water Mitigation project is a little bit more complicated. I sent 2 reports. You got 2 reports with your agenda. You got a preliminary report that was addressed to Dr. Copeland and really was the soil sample. And then they had one mediation aspect that I'm not going to talk a lot about. And then I had another document prepared for me on July 12th, and it had several solutions to the water problem at Elk Mountain. As you know, last year, we were climbing underneath there with lots of water. We had settling in the building. So the engineers, I met with Craig Kopaz, and they have some recommendations and some options that we could consider. You all have that attached in a document on your computer, but if you'd like hard copies, we can make those for you to take tonight. I know it's hard sometimes to look at all that. So their recommendations, one recommendation was for a French drain system with a pump, and then after they did that, we would repair the sidewalk and landscaping to a cost of about $56,000. So that was one option, to do the French drain system, pump, and then fix the landscaping to a cost of $56,000. The second one was to install the French drain system with a pump, and then they would do some expanding foam polymer. Basically, the polymer would be my definition of a foam. So you think of the spray foam that you might use on cracks or something like that. They would actually inject that polymer under the footers and under the foundation, and then go back and repair the sidewalk. So their total bid was for everything. They would gain access to do that injection under that quote through the school building. So they would drill 1-inch holes down through the floor of the building, and that's how they would inject it. And then through the existing soil, they would do that, as well as through the crawl space. So that was a cost at about $312,000 to do that. Another option was to not drill through the school at all, and then do all their work from the crawl space, which was more intensive. That raised the cost up to $323,000. So those were the first options. And then they also explored the idea of the helical pier. So basically we put these metal anchors below the frost line attached to the foundation, and also do the French drain system to a cost of $252,000. I talked with Craig Kopaz. Obviously, we could use divine intervention and pray and hope it doesn't move. That could be an option. I talked to Craig, talked a little bit to Sally about costs, and really think, again, doing nothing is not an option. If I had to make the recommendation without your input at all or no further input, I would say we need to do the French drain, we need to do the pump, we need to monitor for any movement, and then go back after some time to do the landscaping. I surely wouldn't want to fix the sidewalks right now and fix the foundation cosmetic issues until we see that the problem's fixed. You know, next year we're looking at 3 students going in. You know, number of students doesn't necessarily factor in, but we do have 3 students going into the school. Been told there might be far less than 3 students down to 0 students if depending on how things work. So you know, again, if I had to make the recommendation, right now it would be for the French drain system, monitor for any movement of the building, and then to fix the cosmetic and the landscaping. You know, I definitely want input from all of you before I bring a recommendation to the next board meeting. Again, that's attached. I can make hard copies for that. So any questions I can try to answer or take to Craig with that.
So the quotes that you're getting are from whom?
So they come from engineering associates. That's just based on basic engineering quotes that.
Yeah, so it hasn't gone out, it hasn't
It has not.
left the building, okay.
It is not.
Okay, I like the French drain idea. The only problem with the French drain idea is you gotta dig in the fall in Elk Mountain, or you're gonna have more water than you can contend with.
I asked Craig that. I said, so if we're gonna do that, do we need to do it, just while there's no water in there? He said they put in a lot of, I asked him specifically that question. He said they put in a lot of French drain systems where they're digging through mud and water.
Okay.
I've never done that, but I did ask that question, Paul.
Okay. Yeah, and as far as the polymer spray, I've seen a mud jack, with using actual cementous materials. I've never seen the polymer stuff. And the helical pairs, with that rocky of soil, I really don't know if you'll have much luck drilling those big long, because they're just elongated screws, is what they are.
And I looked in his report, and that's why it's, they may not recommend it for that.
Yeah, I don't know if they can run through those rocks, but again, the number of students don't need to play into this, but it does. If we look at it realistically, and we go to pour $350,000 into a school that we're running the risk of no students attending, we're just like we were in Medicine-Bow years ago with the whole new school. We're right back in that situation, whether we want to look at it or not. I like the French drain idea, but at this point, it's probably going to have to take place next year, correct? Because we're not going to be able to have an open trench all the way around that school with 1, 2, or 3, or 4 kids going there, I wouldn't guess. So.
Right, and I don't know the scope of the work. I'd have to find that out if we could do it in phases, so you could access certain doors while they're in different areas.
So I almost wonder if we shouldn't just, bring it forward as we're gonna do a French drain after, and monitor it for the rest of the little bit of the year, and see if we wanna do it next spring or summer or something,
Right. It's definitely an option.
We don't know if it's quite moving yet.
You're right.
And
Or settling.
when they put that French drain in, they could cause more settlement.
Yeah.
That was a
They
point.
could bring it along and just monitor it and see where it's gonna go, and then
Agreed, because if you're gonna get right to the bottom of that footer, and you're exactly right, if you do that, you have a risk of even more damage.
That was a point that Craig brought up. You could put in the French drain system, and as the soil dries out, you may have some settling as well.
You bet, absolutely.
So,
I have done the injection on some irrigation structures before, and it is cool. It'll raise a lot of weight, and it was probably 8 years ago. We haven't had any issues, and it's amazing how much it can lift. And $200,000 worth of foam, like I put $100,000 worth or $80,000 worth of foam under a thing. And
Sure.
the risky thing too, you start going, oh, it needs a little more, and the 200,000 goes to 300,000.
Right,
Pretty
and
quick, because it's not quite raising, I've seen it work, it's really cool stuff. If a crack's a little bit bigger than it was before, it doesn't really matter, it's still, you can still.
How does it work in water? Does it,
Oh, great.
does it? It
Yeah.
doesn't
Well,
try
that's
to
what we
wash
did,
it?
like, somebody didn't put a proper foundation under an irrigation flume across the ditch, and it just washed out underneath. And so we drilled those holes through the floor of the flume, injected that stuff, and because it could put enough PSI when that stuff expanded to lift it all back to,
Where you want
they
it.
lifted it back to grade. And with mud, it's pushing mud out and stuff.
Yeah,
It's just.
I've seen it with cementous type stuff, raising whole buildings.
Right, oh yeah,
that
that's the
way,
same type of,
but I've
that's
never
what it
seen
is, but
Polymer.
it's polymer, just like spray foam, you foam in a wall,
Yeah.
that's all it is, only much more expensive,
Yeah, much more.
but it'll look good in the muddy, watery creek pond. But that makes, I'm with you guys, but maybe the French drain, but nothing else for monitoring.
Yeah, we'll just see what happens.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Is this a good point to bring up the fact that the old school was never settled? It was on fire.
That's good. One other facility item. Last spring, we had a sinkhole at Hannah Elementary School. Jackie Jones's front tire fell in the sinkhole at the school. The engineer believed that it was from borehole in 2020 and that borehole settled. He believes that's what it was. But just to be sure, they brought in a seismograph crew this past week to check for voids and other potential problems. They graphed both under the school and the parking lot, on the football field. They did their work throughout or all around Hannah Elementary. The official report won't be available for a couple of weeks. But if you have a vehicle, they said they believe that you can park outside the school at this time. Their unofficial report was that there were no findings or any voids out and around there. So I'll share the report at the very least in my board briefs when I get that. We talked about district openings. Hannah Elementary does still have the interventionist position. We have numerous coaching openings in para. All of our certified openings other than the interventionist been filled. That's great news. Board governance training, I know some of you have been through that. I don't know how long ago that was, but the superintendent group, as well as Wyoming School Boards Association, recommends to do board governance training anytime that there's a new superintendent or new board members. So that's something for you all to consider. It can be a 4 to 8 hour training. We need to decide if we would want that done in January or February. We just have to reserve the trainers in August or September. And they would come in for an evening to do this board government training. It really talks about roles, responsibility of superintendents, board members, some maybe a little bit of goal setting, student goal setting, and just talks about board superintendent relationships. So you can think about that, maybe communicate with James, or I'll talk with James if that's something that we want to do.
We can talk about it right now. Yes, too. From my perspective, I think that's a good idea. I mean, we've probably been a little lax on a few trainings, and we're going to certainly have probably a few new board members, a couple of elections coming up. So, yeah, I think that would be good. January, February seems like a decent time for that.
Would you prefer a 4 hour evening training, or do you want to do an 8 hour Saturday training? What would be your?
I would be okay with a 4 hour evening one, going a whole Saturday.
Oh, I think Saturday all day sounds phenomenal.
That's what some of the ones in January, February have been through the SBA.
And generally, in November, there's the conference, the state conference. And then in January is when they have the Riverton Casper. So probably February, maybe.
And I think it'd be a good idea to maybe invite Carbon One to see if they'd be interested.
Yeah, combined.
Because we've done some trainings with them, and if we could get, there'd be, I assume some people are for election there. I think those have been beneficial. But Now, you may not get into as much goal setting if that's what we do, but I think if we shop for February.
Okay, I'll look at some dates and get that out to you. School board election information is on board docs. Dana did a nice job, and she put on our district website links for an application as well as links to the School Board Association website, just to keep that in mind. Fall roundup, we just got word today on that, and it looks like Monday, August 29th in Laramie. Dana will send out more information. You can let her know if you'd like to attend. Thank you, that's my report.
You have donations on there, did you have any?
Oh, donations, sorry, I skipped donations. We got a $500 donation from the Juvenile Services Board for encampment schools post-prom activities, so we already got it. I think they've used the money, and we just wanted to recognize the Juvenile Services Board.
Thank you. Any other questions for Dan? Good. We will move on. We have no unfinished business or new business. So we move on to item 10, the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 11, financial information, treasurer's report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your general fund balance at the end of June was $3,787,591.55. That is your cash carryover from one fiscal year to the next. You see there your revenue, tax revenues, and interest income. Your June bills were $751,000. There's that, and you see in section 3 how your money is invested at the various rates that you're receiving. I did get WildStar, and that rate has bumped up to 0.94 or something, so it's getting close to 1%, kind of like that. Do you have any questions regarding your general fund treasurer's report? Your other funds on your second page, you see there your balances at the end of June for all of your grants. You see your comparison of payroll in June 2021 to June 2022. Remember that June payroll is when we pay out all the contracts for the teachers, so they get their June, July, and August paychecks during the month of June, so that we close out the fiscal year of their contracts being paid. The scholarships are there. There were no new scholarships issued during the month of June. You can see your employee benefit fund. I did transfer $75,000 to cover the potential for paid sick days, or paid personal days at the end of the fiscal year. So that money is now in that employee benefit fund. So when we're ready to do that, we'll have a report for you in June of next year of how many days that people are actually claiming the money to be paid for. That was approved as part of your salary negotiations in May. I did also transfer $10,000 to keep the balance above $10,000, so we wouldn't have to pay a banking fee on that account, because it had dropped below $10,000. You can see there your major maintenance fund and the carryover for that. Capital construction, you still have that little $14,000 there. Your depreciation reserve fund, your balance of $1.5 million. We did spend some depreciation reserve fund money this year. The lunch fund, I transferred as much as I thought we could carry over in the lunch fund also, just to get that balance up there, because we know that this year people are gonna have to start paying for lunches, and I anticipate that participation may go down when they have to start paying for everything, but I'm not sure. So I just wanted to shore that up to be sure that there was enough funds in there to carry us through the next fiscal year. You see your balances in your encampment activity, your HANA activity, and your Saratoga activity funds. Do you have any questions regarding the balances in your other funds? Were there any questions regarding your summaries for your revenue and expenditures for the year? Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you. All right, bills approval.
Okay, Mr. Chair. Charlie and I met with Sally, and she answered our questions, and I'll make the following list, and there's going to be a little bit more than normal. And I'll read the June 16th through the 30th first, and then I'll read the July regular in separately. Not separately, but this will be one motion. But anyway, June 16th through the 30th, general fund, 323,595.36. Federal fund, 7,050. Major maintenance, 182,847.48. Depreciation reserve fund, 32,024.60. Saratoga Schools Activity Account, $250, for a total for the July 16th through the 30th of $545,767.44. July regular general fund, $87,945.83. Federal fund, $7,127.16. Major maintenance fund, $5,617.12. Hot lunch fund, $306.74. Encampment activity account, $2,000. HEMHS activity account, $294. Saratoga Schools activity account, $3,280.45, for a subtotal of $106,571.30. Add those two subtotals together, and it comes to a grand total $652,338.74.
Need a second.
Second.
It's moved and seconded that we pay the bills or approve the bills in a grand total of $652,338.74. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, number 12, items from the board. Obviously, again, light this month, so all we have is opportunity for board member comments. Paul.
Real quick, just hoping everybody's having a good summer, enjoying the nice hot weather. Welcome, Darren, very first board meeting as a superintendent, so look forward to working with you. Appreciate you all coming from your summer slumber during the board meeting.
I said, thanks to the Urban County Juvenile Service Board for their $500 donation. Appreciate that. Welcome, Darren. Good to have you in your full capacity, and also looking forward to working with you. So,
Welcome, Darren. Right. The comments are great. Good luck to the kids at fair. Good luck to the kids rodeoing this summer. Next time we'll get started for school. And thank you to Paul's wife for coming, because Paul has been so much more well behaved today than ever. So we appreciate that.
My efforts are being observed, I see. Way to go, honey.
Okay, yes. Also, welcome, Darren. Looking forward to a wonderful working experience as we work together to make sure the schools are as good as they can be. And great summer. And thank you for the two principals that actually have shown up.
Yeah, enjoyed hearing about some of the kids doing good in rodeo and as well, and fair coming up pretty quickly. Darren, excited to have you in this new position. I think all of us feel thinking of you, and sorry about your dad. And I enjoyed some of the pictures your wife shared of you as a little kid and your family, or a younger guy. I enjoyed that. So there's always positive to everything, but just excited to have you in this position and look forward to working with you.
Ditto what everybody said, Darren. Would see you take over this position. Sally, thank you for all your answers you give. Probably a little above and beyond what I ask sometimes, but I do appreciate the answers that you give us. And Bill, I always like to show appreciation. He is sitting back there in the corner all the time.
Okay. I, as normal, forget to say who's on the bill committee, and since Charlie talked about it, it is Miller, Sewell, and Walmsley for us. Okay, now, it's kind of a funny flow of the meeting. As you guys know, we do have an executive session to deal with the student issue. We're gonna do that. We're gonna then recess the regular meeting, go into a public budget hearing, then reconvene the regular meeting to approve the budgets from the budget hearing. So hang with us. So first is item 13, executive session.
Mr. Chair, I move that we go into executive session for the purpose of discussing fact and conclusions of law and decision, and to consider the expulsion or suspension of an unnamed student.
Second.
It's moved and seconded that we go into executive session to discuss those issues. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We will obviously have action after the executive session. The executive session, I assume, will be in here. Okay, so the rest of you don't mind. Mr. Jennings, you staying, and is it Mr. Johnson for this one? Yes.
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded to come out of executive session and approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Okay, item 15A, Mr. Jennings. We just need a motion, maybe.
I think we just made a motion.
Just asking you to adopt the findings of fact and conclusion of law and decision for the expulsion of an unnamed student.
Okay. Motion for that.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the findings of facts and conclusion of law and the decision of expulsion of an unnamed student.
Second.
Moved and seconded to adopt the findings of fact and conclusions of law and decision for expulsion of an unnamed student. Since it is an expulsion, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote. Paul?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Joe?
Aye.
Me? Aye. Okay, unanimous. Okay. Item 16 would be to set the next meeting date, or not, which is going to be Monday, August 15th, 6 p.m. Central Office right here in Saratoga for some meetings. Now, we're going to recess from the regular meeting in order to hold a public hearing on the budget, which I'm going to do. Okay, now, conduct a public hearing on the budget at 18A. Ms. Wells.
Does anybody have any questions on the budget? You can see there the summary on page 2. I think that Carbon 2 is doing very well. Our carryover allowance has increased from $2.1 million regular without our 97 money to $4.2 million. So our $3.7 million cash carryover is well within that 80%. The average daily membership is steady. We've gone from 592 to 592 to 595 this year. So we're not gaining a lot, but we're not losing a lot either. The assessed valuation is up from prior year. And you'll notice that your budget is an increase of about $420,000, but that's due to increased tax revenues. Our budget should have been higher this year probably, but we got through on what we Any questions regarding those points? Your general fund budget, we're asking for a general fund budget of $18,320,000. Your grants budget, we're asking for a budget of $2.6 million, and that includes ARA money, ESSER money, all of that good stuff. We've got a $1.2 million grant in our American Recovery Plan money, so 2.6 is well within. We won't spend it all in 1 year, but we need to budget it just in case we decide we're going to spend it all in 1 year. Your major maintenance budget with your cash carryover and anticipated state revenue is $2.55 million. Your capital construction budget, I put a little bit in there in case we have some capital component projects that come up. Right now, we don't have anything proposed for that, but just in case, there's a little bit of budget in there that be a placeholder. Your employee benefit fund budget is $92,000. That would more than adequately take care of the one retirement benefit person we still have. I think we have another 6 months to go on paying that one out, and then we'll have the payout of the sick time that you approved in your salary negotiations. It shouldn't come to that much money, but we've got plenty in there to cover it, the maximum. Your depreciation reserve fund is 1.51. That is your current balance plus any interest income that we have. And it's spread out between instruction and the support, general support. The food service budget I'm proposing is $700,000 budget. That includes your cash carryover and a reduction in revenue from federal with a $200,000 transfer from the general fund, anticipating sales and other charges. Going back a couple of years, looking at about $136,000 for the revenue. So we'll budget the full $700,000 of anticipated revenue and carryover to cover our expenses. As you can see, the actual revenue and expenditures for 21-22 were pretty close to our budget that we had last year. Your trust funds or your scholarships, basically you have your carry forward amount plus any interest that we would earn, and that gives you a budget of $15,900. Your pupil activity funds, you're looking at your carryover and receipts. Last year we had a lot more receipts than we anticipated in activity funds. So that's why you have such a large carryover balance. I noticed that HEM and Saratoga's activity funds really boosted this year, so that means people are giving to your student activities, and that's a good thing. They can spend their money on their projects that way. Debt service fund right now, carbon 2, I should stop and ask, does anybody have any questions regarding the budgets? Sure. Okay. Right now, your debt service funds, we don't have any bonds outstanding. We don't have any debt to service with carbon 2. You also have your statement of bonded indebtedness, which is required by the state. Our statement of legal debt margin on page 14 is 10% of our assessed valuation. So that's $21 million that we could actually go out to bond or do, but you'd have to have a bond election to do that. So on page number 15 is the mill levies. We have our 25 mil. We have your half mil that's being split 0.4 to carbon 2 BOCES and 0.1 to region 5 BOCES that you approved in May. And then your 1 mil rec levy that you get. And Mr. Jennings will sign off on those mill levies. Then the final page, page 16, is your resolution to adopt the budget, total budget of $27 million and change. You see there are also the amounts to be raised by the general fund. That would be your tax revenue, and then your rec levy and your board, your BOCES levy, as those will come in. And that presents you with your budget. Okay, any questions from the audiences? This is a public hearing. Okay. There you go.
I hope to God you never leave, Sally.
We had that discussion today.
And one thing that's always struck me about these budgets that's funny is we have the budget, the carryover. And so we budget with carryover, so it's not like we spend a lot, but we don't spend the 27 million.
You budgeted so well, you have a carryover, now you got a budget to carry over.
It's just a funny part of it. It's not what you're actually gonna spend. Seems weird. Okay, now, seeing no questions, I'm going to reconvene the regular meeting and adjourn the public hearing. So item 20-A is the rec board budget. We just have to have a motion to approve it.
Chairman, I move that we adopt the CCSD number 2 rec board budget for the fiscal year 2022-2023.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the rec board budget in a total of $318,348.54 for the 2022-2023 year. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is BOCES.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the Carbon County School District number 2 BOCES board budget of $340,000.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the Carbon County School District 2 BOCES budget for the 2022-2023 school year in a total of $340,000. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, lastly, number C, which means this whole resolution read off.
I'll read it. Whereas on the 20th day of July 2022, the budget officer filed with the Board of Trustees of Carbon County School District number 2 a tentative budget and budget message for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. And whereas a summary of such budget was entered into the board minutes and notice of a public hearing on such budget together with said summary was published in the Saratoga Sun and Daily Times, a newspaper having general circulation in the county in which the district is located, on or before the 14th day of July 2022, where notice was posted in 3 conspicuous places in the district. And whereas a public hearing was held concerning such budget on the 3rd Wednesday in July, at which time all interested parties were given the opportunity to be heard. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of Carbon County School District number 2 that such budget as revised, if applicable, is hereby adopted and subject to future amendment as in effect for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. Be it further resolved that the following appropriations are made as of and for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023, and that those respective expenditures applicable to each department and fund shall be limited to the amounts hereby appropriated, subject to future amendment. Appropriations: General Fund, $18,320,000. Grants, $2,600,000. Major Maintenance Fund, $2,550,000. Capital Construction Fund, $200,000. Depreciation Reserve Fund, $1,510,000. Employee Benefit, $92,000. Food Service Fund, $700,000. Trust Fund, $15,900. Pupil Activity Fund, $672,800. Recreation Board, $318,348.54. Carbon County School District 2 BOCES, $340,000, for total appropriations of $27,319,048.54. Be it further resolved that after deducting all available cash and estimated revenues, the following amounts must be raised through general taxation, and that such levies as are required to provide such amounts are hereby authorized as of and for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. Amounts to be raised, general fund, $5,345,607.78. Recreation levy, $213,824.31. Board of Cooperative Educational Services, $106,912.16. Dated this 20th day of July, 2022.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the budget and grand total of $27,319,048.54. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, before I adjourn, we have to make sure everybody here signs this budget copy
3 times,
3 times.
3 copies.
3 copies, all 3 of these. That's why I just pass them around like candy. After you. Okay, I was like, wow, we got 3 copies. Okay. We gotta drive back next Monday.
Gotcha.
All right.